So here's the thing with pain. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes, and here's why. I'm sure you already actually know, but so pain can have many different starting points, and it's not finding the starting point that can delay the healing process. Now, with pain, 99.9% of the time you're looking at unresolved anger, whether the client's conscious of it or not. So asking them directly of how angry are you or what's happening, they'll go like, I'm not angry. A lot of people are suppressed. Like just yesterday I was working with someone who's like, no, I don't have anger issues. I'm like, sit tight. And then 5 minutes later it was like red, sweat, like, and I'm like, ooh, okay. All right. I didn't say I told you so because that's the worst moment to do that. Don't do that. Anyway, so it's just a matter of guiding them. And when we look at pain, it depends on if it's an injury, is it an accident? It can be because of anything. It can be because of an ailment. Now, if it's an ailment, then you're going to be looking at the psychosomatic stress associated with that. Go have a look at volume 1. Because remember now, in this case, pain is a symptom. So even if there's unresolved anger, there's something that came before the unresolved anger. There was an emotional stress taking place before the anger and the unresolved injustice or resentment or powerlessness. And if it's an ailment, you'll look at addressing the ailment and then looking at the pain. But here's the cool part. Look at where the pain is. Look at your cheat sheet. Combine that with what you've read in volume 1, for example. Because if you just directly try to heal the pain, for example, if you're working with rheumatoid arthritis, just working on the pain in the joints, it's not going to shift. You need to look at why is the ailment challenging this person. Okay, so in this case, a generalization, you already know. Okay, so where in your life do you feel like you're the buffer between two people that's in conflict? Mom, dad, family, right? Belief systems even, doesn't even have to be like a physical entity, like a person. And then you look at the pain that's associated with that, because the pain is then an end result of unresolved anger and resentment of not being able to speak up and establishing your boundaries, establishing your need for support. Right? Boundaries in the sense of, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. You guys fix your own stuff. I'm not going to be the scapegoat anymore. Don't speak to me like that. Don't treat me like that. So then you'll be looking at boundary issues as well. Failed boundaries, relationship with yourself, self-esteem. There's an entire package right there. You can do so much, so much. Now, when you look at pain, for example, that as a result of surgery, it's very common for a surgical incision, wherever there was surgery being done, for there to be pain, because the doctor is holding a metal knife. Brilliant transmitter of energy. Trauma transfer. Trauma transfer. How's that doctor feeling that's operating on you? How's the nurses feeling around you? It's all copies. Hospitals, a lot of people die. There's anxiety, there's fear, there's so much depression, especially depression. That's the most dominant collective consciousness that's hanging in a hospital. So that can also be formed and stored as a soul copy. So it just shows you how the body is constantly listening. It's always absorbing. The awareness of the body never ever stops. Just because your frontal cortex goes, doesn't mean that the body does. It's always on alert. The reptilian mind never sleeps. Amygdala never sleeps. So that's surgery. So that's what I would do with that. Of course, you would be looking at the anger. Was it the surgeon or surgeons' unresolved anger that's there, or powerlessness? Remember the stepping stones for anger: powerlessness, helplessness, injustice, loss of control. Also, of course, fighting instinct that's being suppressed. absolutely. And also bear in mind when you do go for surgery, for example, and you have something removed, or if you have a hip replacement, don't think that you bypass that issue that caused the hip replacement. That's going to move somewhere else. I had a client who had a gallbladder removed, and 3 weeks later she started having kidney problems. And then 2 months later she had kidney stones. Gallbladder and kidneys are best friends. Psychosomatic issues are very, very closely related. Okay? Okay. So hip replacements, okay, great. So you had that done, no problem, but let's still look at what's going on. Let's still look what's happening there. Because I had a lady who was in Sydney actually, very, very well-known tennis player there. That not playing nationally, but she was very good at the game, and she was even in charge of a big club there. And she had to have both hips replaced. But she had so much anger. And she's like, I'm just going to deal with this with a hip replacement, like everything will be fine. And then she contacted me later again with blown out adrenals and chronic fatigue. Okay, so that anger just went from the hips, and it went to draining the adrenals, chronic fatigue, because the body just couldn't handle the anger, and because she didn't have that physical outlet of playing tennis anymore, because that gave her the outlet for the anger, right? Didn't have it anymore, and the body just went. So, now another part with pain. Sometimes we think when someone comes to us with back pain or shoulder pain or ankle pain or knee pain, I like to ask them, have you had an injury before? Did you have a severe injury before? Because here's the thing. The first initial injury might have healed, but the emotional psychosomatic stress related to that could have gone dormant. Because whatever it is that was in the environment that triggered it might have changed or went away. But it doesn't mean that the ability for it to be triggered has gone away. Now, they have another issue in their life come up, or a severe psychosomatic issue that triggers them, might not necessarily be close enough to trigger it at the exact same initial spot where it started, but it can go to the next weakest link in the body. And I say weakest link because remember we have the fascia or the fascia, I don't know what you guys call it, every country is different. But remember, wherever that part could have overcompensated, exactly, it can pull anywhere. And where it's going to pull, it's going to create a tension and weakness. And that psychosomatic stress can go right there. And normally the weakness can be created where the emotional, based on the emotional stress. So if someone is having a lot of territorial issues, a lot of invasion issues, it's very common to have that tension in the heart, for example. If someone is struggling with a lot of humiliation, shame and humiliation, you're looking at that, the vertebrae and the muscles smack bang between the shoulder blades. Every single time. Alright? So it's very important to remember that. And if you, for example, fall and then there's chronic pain, we're going to be looking at suppressed anger, powerlessness, loss of control, fighting instinct. Because anger, suppressed anger, not unsuppressed, suppressed anger, it gravitates to the weakest part in the body. Always. Always, always, always. So that pain is actually showing you, it might actually show up as pain, but it's showing you to bring your attention to a psychosomatic issue. Something in your life is not working for you. And the pain is there to show you, look at the body part that's flaring up. Look at the message that's behind it. Because the anger is also there because of perhaps failed boundaries. Whether it's conscious or unconscious. I mean, how do you feel when your boundaries are being crossed? I get pretty jacked up. I get pissed off. Yeah, I will not lie. I handle it better now, but still. So, it's very important to look at also how did the person feel at the time of the injury. If it's not related to an ailment, how did the person feel at the time of the injury or at the time when the pain started? Because anger combined with that emotion. Heal that. Work on that. Address that. Here we're going to address the midbrain, because it modulates and coordinates pain as well in the body. So if that guy's stressed out, you're going to have a very low threshold for pain. Or if that's very numb, you're going to have a very high threshold for pain. Also depending on your genetic predispositions. Okay? Also remember, if the pain is specifically in the back, never, ever, ever forget conflicts and value. Never forget your conflicts and values. Don't worry, I got it all here for you. Now this is just some general notes here, like for example when we work with pain, we look at the emotion, a dominant main themed emotion that was repeated or coming up for the client, like that thorn in your side, that emotional thorn in your side. The emotion building up before the pain started, or what was the emotional stress at the time of the trauma. Now, note, when you work with someone that had an injury or an accident that was painful, that was like that left a shock effect, I would look at who was close to that person physically. Remember trauma transfer. Your energy field's wide open. And you're also in that state where you're looking for safety, you're looking for comfort. What do you reach out to? The person that's closest to you. It's a very unconscious process. But whatever that person's feeling at that time, your need for safety is met with how that person's feeling. So I always ask, was there someone around you?
Until the parents like,
ah! Exactly, so whose panic is that kid really feeling and reacting to? That's a perfect trauma transfer.
Yeah, because your reaction, the kids go, oh, wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you laugh, they go like, oh, it's funny.
Yeah.
And then they laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. Okay. And what did you emotionally... And so here's the thing. Number 3 is for chronic pain. That's when you work with chronic pain. Throw that in there. What do you emotionally need when you are in pain? Because this is an unconscious association that can actually solidify and let that pain set in even more. It's an unconscious secondary gain. The person's oblivious that they're doing this. When I'm in pain, all that I just need is peace. I just need freedom, I need peace, I need freedom, I need peace. But my need for freedom and peace is met by the physical pain. It's met by how the pain is making me feel. Trapped, angry, frustrated, irritated. Now look how I'm forming an unconscious association with needing to feel peaceful and free. Look at the frequency match that I'm creating. People like that are going to come in, it's going to make me feel irritated, trapped, frustrated, and like I don't have freedom. See how powerful the unconscious mind is? It's very subtle what's happening, but the ripple effect of this and how it surfaces is life-changing. It's huge. Your associations dominate your quality of life. But again, associations are just symptoms.